At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
And Mike.
Hello.
We have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Just got done with the Pro Tour, so we have a lot to talk about in that regard.
And boy, are our arms tired. Does that work there?
Unless you'd have to
that fits.
Fly to Bilbao, Spain.
No.
Did you fly to Spain?
No.
Not this time?
Not this year.
I did fly on Eagles with Bilbo. Is that similar?
That's close.
Okay, good.
You got a lot of the similar words. I mean, letters.
Good catch.
A lot of similar letters. But not quite the same. Though it was a good weekend for Eagles as well. So.
Oh, man. I like it. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah,
it's fine. I know I'm not going to get a lot of sympathy as a Pats fan.
No,
so it's
zero.
Probably not the only Super Bowl joke we made this episode.
Maybe not. But we'll just have to wait and see. But we wanted to start off the show with the community and with a bit of a somber note. Over the weekend, I think it was, Friday? When this news broke, but notable Star City Games grinder Corey McDuffie actually passed away. And we didn't want to talk too much about it, but we did want to send our condolences to anyone that knew Corey really well, his friends, his family. Obviously, losing someone who's pretty important in your life is very rough, and we send our deepest condolences out to anyone affected by this tragedy. But moving on. During the Pro Tour, we did get some interesting information about Masters 25. Mainly what the packaging is going to look like in some of the cards that are actually going to be in the booster packs that you open. So, we had Jason the Mind Sculptor, Azusa, Lost But Seeking, and Phyrexian Obliterator, which got revealed a little bit later on, as being 3 cards confirmed for this set. Both the Phyrexian Obliterator and Jace being mythic rares and Azusa being rare. And on the packaging, there is a third mysterious card that we do not know yet what it is. It's definitely a Metal Man.
Yeah, some sort of machine man.
Some sort of Metal Man. Likely either a Colossus or Ravager or Overseer of some persuasion, more than likely. But we don't really know yet. It's got new art. No idea what it could be.
It's Solemn Simulacrum. That's what it is. Everyone's all excited. It's just Solemn.
Yeah, Solemn's fine.
Yeah,
it's a good card.
It's not that fun.
We'll find out. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, we actually start getting full previews kicking off on the 26th of this month, February, and the release will be on March 16th. So really, just right around the corner. Pretty exciting stuff.
That's a good lead into Dominaria. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm also really excited by the watermarks.
Yeah, they're very detailed.
Yeah, like
they actually have the number 25 on them and everything like that.
No, I mean
like on the actual text.
Oh no, that's right.
Box,
not the
like
the
if you
set
saw the
mark.
Azusa or the Phyrexian Obliterator, like the Azusa has the Kamigawa watermark on its text box. The Obliterator has the new Phyrexia symbol on it. And I think that's pretty cool, and it's going to look really sharp in foil.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also I agree with you. The set logo is also like very detailed for how tiny it is and looks sweet. So it almost looks like the kind of logo they'd use for a from the vault.
Yeah, that's very true. It reminds me of old set logos for Pokemon cards, in all honesty, because for like the promo ones and stuff like that, it used to get pretty detailed for those. So it kind of reminds me of that. Makes me feel good.
So I'm excited. As for all Master sets, I'm always excited to see like which cards get downshifted from rare to like uncommon or common. But like now that I'm playing Pauper a little bit, it's like
suddenly have a
got a little extra, little something extra to look for.
I do wonder if they'll even. I mean, I guess to create the limited environment, they may have to downshift things, but I don't know if they will or not. Theoretically, because it feels like if they want to maintain like rarities as much as they possibly could for things being released, but maybe they can't because just for the sheer fact of like rares that should be mythic rares, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting.
I think it's also just a ton of rares from older sets that, depending on what they decide to print, they're just on common level. So,
I guess that's true.
This whole like having to get everything from like a card from each set is pretty interesting to start doing. Like you're calling some shots and see what happens.
Give me that Kavu Titan uncommon one time. Such a random card to like want to have, but it'd be sweet in my cube. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Dave. I hope they don't do Kavus as any sort of sub theme for Magic 25.
No, just one. Yeah, we don't need. Yeah,
if there's gonna be one iconic Kavu, it's not Kavu Titan.
It's Flame Tongue Kavu for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely that one.
But I'll let you have that dream.
I do wonder what kind of lands we'll get. I think that's what everyone is kind of excited about, in all honesty.
So this isn't necessarily tied into... This is not a modern Masters. This is just a kind of everything Masters.
Yeah,
right?
It has to be.
So this is like the real iconic Masters, where the first one was like just a fake one.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Iconic Masters is still.
Why does that set even exist?
I could not tell you.
To make Horizon Canopy less.
That's it.
Less money, I guess.
And to get foil mana dreams.
It's true.
So
yeah. It was a weird Iconic Masters weird misstep for Wizards, but
like this like just seeing the cards that were just these 3 cards is like it's already like I don't know, I'm like more excited than
well, and I think again like the things like the watermarks and stuff does a lot more to celebrate like be an iconic status. Like this is like Phyrexian Obliterator like may have not seen a ton of play, but that card like you remember it when you see it. You know what I mean? And Azusa is iconic, I think. So and obviously Jace, is the face of Magic. That Jace the Mind Sculptor is the face of Magic Gathering.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Also, can that Jason ban? I'm just saying they're putting it in this set.
No. Anyone who's thinking that Jace the Mind Sculptor is going to be banned in Modern, like stop. It's just not going to happen.
Does Jace make Lantern a better or worse deck? Do you just play like Jace and Lantern, right? Because once you have him locked out, Jace is just a faster win condition.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not even going to think about that.
It's never going to be a thing.
Though, if it were to happen, it would make sense to like print it again in a set right around the time where it gets unbanned. It's not going to happen though.
Yeah,
but
cards too good.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we have some further information about another product release that's going to be happening further down the line. Dual decks, Elves versus Inventors, which is still the most random versus.
Is that better than peanut butter versus jelly?
Yes. No, it's not. Peanut butter versus jelly is the best.
There is no verse. We've talked about this. They live together in harmony.
Right.
That was the name of the last episode.
Yeah. They do live together in harmony, but they have to fight first. They must first battle, and then they have
like a healthy respect for each other.
They have the two lines that are crossed across the battlefield, and then they run together, and then they just get stuck.
I think you just described all of the Star Wars Legends canon. Like all right, so it's Luke and Mary Jade, and then we put them in a jar.
Yep, that's how you get it. That's how you get a Skywalker goober.
All right. We can't go down this path again. Stay on the path.
Now, is Goober the path to the light side or to the...
You know what? It's more the gray side. But anyway, we did get some more information about this the final dual deck that is going to be coming out. We see that cards like Goblin Welder, Azuri Renegade Leader, and Elvish Archdruid are going to be reprinted and have new arts. And there are some other cards. I think they mentioned Thopter Assembly and
I didn't mention that one.
And Solemn Simiracle. Well, Thopter Assembly does have new art.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's Kaladesh inspired art. People like that.
I don't even know what does Thopter Assembly even do. I don't even know what that is.
Okay, well, it makes Thopters.
Isn't Thopter Assembly like a Triskelion slash...
Yeah, it's a 6 mana 0/0. It comes with 5 counters.
Yeah, it comes with counters. It's a it's a battle cruiser. If you ever played StarCraft.
Sure.
Yeah.
It comes out and the little mini ones come out and go back to the battle cruiser.
Yeah. But we did see the new Goblin Welder card and its art and everything like that.
It's pretty sweet.
We've only seen the Azuri art, but not necessarily a card, which leads us to believe that there may be some potential changes with the actual frame of the card, as they haven't shown it to us yet, pretty much.
Yeah, and Azuri is so how like the dual decks will have two cards on the front.
He's the
so
face card.
Yeah, so Goblin Welder is the Inventor's one, and Azuri is the Elf side, which so very obvious that they didn't want to show us that one.
Correct. And there's been a lot of speculation about this. I think some things that I read on Twitter today were that potentially the frame would be changing to align like legendary creatures and maybe legendary permanents in general to the frame of Planeswalkers.
Yeah,
because now we have Planeswalkers as being legendary now. So
yeah, I don't know that I would like that though. I think you still want to have some differentiation between Planeswalkers and just legends,
but who knows? Who knows what this is going to be? Likely, it's going to tie in with whatever they're doing in Dominaria, though. You would think if they're going to be changing it for this, then we would also expect it for it to carry over in Dominaria, not for just this supplemental dual deck.
Was it dual decks? What was the thing? Oh, I'm thinking of from the vaults when they would print like one card from the upcoming set.
Yeah.
That's not dual decks, though.
Dual decks...
the last one I can think of is like Sword of Body and Mind, right? They had the From the Vault.
Micaeus was another one.
Yeah.
Micaeus showed up in the Legends one. So... but yeah, we'll see what happens. I think this releases sometime in April, if I'm not mistaken, and I think more information comes with April 6th about the dual decks.
Yeah,
I think that's what I read. So you can wait for that to kind of show up,
and that'll be the last one.
And Andrew Brown, former Magic Gathering pro, actually was tweeting about how he worked on it and tried to put some sweet modern cards in there. So. This might be worth it. It might be worth it to check out as the swan song.
Beast Within confirmed.
Hey man,
what's the?
Just throw that cavern in there, man. That's all, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Throw that cavern in there.
It'll probably be like, what's the elf that like you tap 3 elves for 3 mana? I can't think of the name right now.
Birchlore Ranger?
No.
Oh, Heritage Druid.
Yes, that's it.
Has that one ever been revealed?
Devoted.
Yes, it was in Vintage or Eternal Masters.
Yeah,
as a rare in Eternal Masters.
Yeah, you could do Devoted Druid. That's an elf.
There you go.
Yep.
That was a common.
I think the Inventors decks probably have a bunch of unstable cards in it. If I guess.
Probably. I'm going to say definitely. Shivan Reef is the modern card in the Inventors deck. So there you go.
Hopefully, the Inventors get 4 goggles because everybody needs those.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, they never printed a goggle that Dave wouldn't slap into a deck despite his friends telling him not to. So.
The last bit of community news that we want to talk about is this new mobile game that apparently is going to be releasing in 2018 that we literally know nothing about. It still is under a code name. It's Magic the Gathering Project M, being released by a Korean-based mobile game developer, if I'm not mistaken. And it got announced today, and we literally know 0 things about it. But a lot of people seem to think that it is going to be a MOBA, which is a massively online battle arena or multiplayer online battle arena, something online. It used to be
massively multiplayer online, like that was the MMO part before. So, no, it's like if I'm correct me wrong, it's like a Clash of Clans type thing. Right?
It's going to be similar to League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're thinking.
On mobile.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So bad.
I mean, probably.
They have another huge property. I was reading the article today about that. Like, that company has another huge property for the same type of game, and I can't remember what license it has.
I don't remember either. But there was some recent copyright filings for WotC for different sort of code names or things like Mana Strike or something else. But this could be in relation to that. So who knows? Obviously, WotC's trying to expand the brand, make Magic, something bigger than just a card game. I wish that they would stop being 5 years too late for everything.
Yeah, the article that also mentioned also talked about how the market for MOBAs on mobile had reached a saturation point. So that's fine, but I hope that we just get the inevitable. So it's going to be like Gideon's Mana Battalion, and then we'll get to see Arnold Schwarzenegger play Gideon, and all the commercials we'll have to see every 5 minutes on TV.
Yeah.
So just like he does now for what I don't know, it was a war game.
A Mobile Strike.
Is that it? Nice.
Nice. It's stuck in my. Their advertising clearly works.
Morgan was actually playing some Mobile Strike before we started.
You know what? In general, I'm not really big on mobile gaming. To be on my phone, on my cell phone.
My phone already dies every day, and I don't even play anything like that.
Yeah, your phone still flips, but
that's funny. Dave's over there playing Snake.
Yeah,
the pinnacle.
My Nokia will never die, never die. No, I mean I literally have my Switch. I don't really care.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. If I'm gonna do that, but I've never don't know. It's just not something that I feel like I turn to in general when I want to like play a game. It's never like my first instinct is to go to my phone, even though I have the top of the line iPhone. Like, there's no reason not to.
Touch controls, no matter how top of the line the iPhone is, never feel precise enough to be satisfying.
For certain games, there's some that are fine and serviceable and that I do enjoy, but it's just like it's never my first priority unless you put like a good version of like Magic Online on there, and then I would be constantly playing.
So
probably.
I think it's interesting for games like this, like the Puzzle League they did for the MOBA, that sort of thing. Like, I am definitely a person who's a sucker for brands often, right? Like, I like branded things, but mobile games don't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've never wanted to play any of the, like, you know, again, like they put Magic's name on it. I'm like, that's not Magic though. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Any of like the Final Fantasies
Sure,
that they
yeah.
put out, like it's like
I know, but
I'm
you
not
play,
why
like,
would I play it on this?
the-
Play it
it's like
on
the-
console, whatever.
Right. The Star Wars, like, turn-based, like, games and stuff like that. Which is like, this is
Heroes
not.
of the Galaxy or something
Yeah,
like
like,
that.
there's, like, there, that property does nothing for me in that medium. But. So I'm not really excited here. But if you are, I mean, by all means, hopefully it's good. At least they did hire a company that has a track record doing
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but I agree with you. It's probably too late, and it'll come and go quietly.
Speaking of Final Fantasy, I have to say, like, the only mobile Final Fantasy that's probably worth playing, in all honesty, Tactics. Tactics is pretty well set up for mobile, in all honesty, and it's like one of the best Final Fantasies that no one plays.
Yeah,
so.
Tactics is sweet.
Everybody
It's
says
super
that too,
hard.
and I've still never played it.
It's super hard. At least I'm bad at it. I'm bad at Tactics games, so it's super hard for me. But that's it for community. Before we move on to talking about the Pro Tour, I do want to give a shout out, of course, to Comic Town. They're actually going to be hosting a modern format Star City Games IQ on February 11th. So if you are excited to play some modern with all the decks that you saw over the weekend, then you can definitely hop into Comic Town on the 11th and sleeve up a deck and play it. Registration opens at 11 a.m. with a noon start time. So be there or be square.
I'll be there.
Dave will be there.
It's also my birthday, so
Happy birthday.
everybody just concede to me, and
That's not how it works.
that'll be good.
You know what they say? Birthday concessions.
My birthday is on February 16th. So I'm going to be seeing Black Panther, which is getting stellar reviews, and I am very excited. Very, very excited.
Yeah, we're all going to go see the Big Cat Man.
I'm very excited for the Big Cat Man. Very excited. So, I got Dave twice. That's the best. So, Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. This, of course, was a modern Pro Tour held in Bilbao, Spain. It being held in Spain means that you had to be up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it all here in the States, at least in the Eastern time zone.
It wasn't that bad because
'cause-
the modern round started around 8.
Yeah,
So you just got to skip all the worthless draft.
Yeah,
it's true.
If you don't care about like watching draft coverage like me, then it was actually fine.
But this was, first of all, one of the most watched Pro Tours in a long time from what I saw. Like, I think the finals had over 40,000 people streaming it on Twitch.
It's like 46.
Yeah. Which, should send a pretty clear message to Wizards.
People like that modern.
People like the people's format. Crazy.
Yeah, even when it's lantern control
Even
on camera.
Even when it's lantern control. Speaking of which, congratulations to Luis Salvato, the secondary LSV, if you will, taking it down with none other than the aforenamed lantern control.
I don't know if you saw this. They had a Fact or Fiction today on Star City. Cedric Phillips said that when people do the voting for top 8s for Modern Opens, Lantern Control is consistently the one that wins the votes to be watched.
You know why? Because they never show it during the regular round.
It's fair, but it's interesting that we will hate on it and say whatever, but like people want to see what it does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could tell just watching coverage, and given there actually weren't that many people playing the deck in the whole tournament. I think there were 8 or 9 players.
Yeah,
total
it was very
playing
small.
Lantern. So, but they didn't really show Lantern much on camera. Outside of the top 8 where they had to show it, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think there's people say that it's bad for coverage, and it is a deck that is not. At times, it's like you're not playing Magic. It's kind of like Dredge in that sense. I guess.
I think it's still better on camera than something like Eggs was.
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
Eggs, you never advance to board state. I think watching Lantern, you can clearly see what they're doing, but I will say it's probably hard to see like an advantage meter thing. Like unless like unless there's an ensnaring bridge lock, it's probably really, really hard to understand the Lantern player is like consistently ahead or behind because of all those moving parts.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Lantern. I wish it wasn't a deck, but I don't really mind it all that much. I think it's just like the games only take long if you like if you're locked up by Lantern and you don't concede. It's kind of like your own fault. Like,
Yeah, but sometimes your opponent might make a really serious error, and then you win the game even though you're locked.
like in round 16?
I'm just saying, like, that's the Reduke school of playing Magic. So I'm just saying, it does. You can say it never happens. Let me show you a video.
Yeah. So we want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, so in round 16 of the tournament, Luis Salvato was actually playing against a teammate to...
Lucas Esper Berthude.
Yeah, Lucas Esper Berthude. Luis could draw or win, I'm pretty sure, to get his seat in the top 8, but Berthude would have to beat Salvato to actually get into there. Game 1, Luis is about ready to seal the deal. He has another way of winning, but decides to whir for a Witchbane Orb.
He basically he had the Lantern in play. He had
Bridge,
the Codex Shredder, and the Bridge. Yeah, he had basically everything locked up.
He wanted to turn off Malcontents. That's the only thing you're doing with that.
So he is worrying and cannot find his Witchbane Orb. He does find 2 Grafdigger's Cages, which one of them obviously should be in a sideboard. So he ends up getting a game loss for this for deck list error, I believe is what it was classified as. At least that's what I heard on the stream. I don't know if they actually changed it.
Is that true? Like deck because
that's what the judge said.
Isn't his deck list? It was his deck list wrong?
I don't know. I don't
know exactly what the rule was, but it was a game loss.
Yeah, it was the game loss was the repercussion for his error, and he obviously locked up the other 2 games pretty handily,
pretty easily. Yeah,
like
he won the match 3-0.
Yeah, pretty much, and yeah. So even the most experienced players, the players that go on to win the Pro Tour, still can make those kind of errors for sure.
How awkward is it to be that person's teammate, but also being the person who wants to top 8, who's just like, oh, but I'm so sorry, but I'm not conceding here, right? Like that is such a tough situation to have to be.
I imagine being on a team with someone and you're both out for the same goal, even though you're a team. Like you at some point in time are still out for yourself.
Sure.
So I don't think Salvato, if the roles were switched, would.
Oh no, I don't think so either. I'm just saying I would definitely be the person to I would not concede, but my stomach would be shut up, you.
Yeah, there was. And I don't know how likely this was of happening, but there was some talk about, well, maybe they can just swap out the cards because the Grafdigger's Cage, neither of the Grafdigger's Cages that were in his deck had ever showed up in any kind of scry
you presented a legal deck.
Right, yeah. and I agree with that. I think it should be a game loss, but there have been situations in the Pro Tour where, the judge or the head judge may make a ruling that they wouldn't normally make in, say, a Grand Prix or, something
Interesting.
else. Because it's common sense. It's okay, this actually had no effect on the game. If neither of the cages ever showed up at all, never got scried, never got revealed with a Lantern, never it was in his hand at any point or anything like that. It's just in his deck and he found it because he was searching. That didn't actually have any effect on the game. So common sense says, yeah, but you still presented an illegal deck and,
I will say, but you're talking about that. I was a friend of the show, Judge JP, who's been on before. He made a really good point on social media this weekend. That I think they should. He talked about how they should really have a standby commentating judge because every time those for some reason they still do not cut away from the judge
they
calls.
Haven't learned from the days of Uncle Randy.
And no matter how good the commentators are, they start flopping. We could say they're just pure conjecture. It doesn't make sense. And I think if you follow again, we always compare this sports commentary because that's where it's at. You watch the NFL, they have a former referee on standby who they can ask rules questions to. And I think it would be, and he suggested this would be a good idea, and I agree with him. Have a judge who's there who's just heck, before you uncovered, you had Sheldon Menery for a long time. You know what I mean? Who was definitely a high level judge. Somebody like that who maybe they're not judging the event, but you can go to and be hey, okay, what do you think is going on here? What can you assess from this? So that the commentators don't look like fools who don't know the IPG in any way, because they don't.
Yeah.
So
I think that's got to be. I don't know how often in NFL do you think like they reach out to
often in a game,
but I don't think that will necessarily translate as much in.
Oh, probably not.
Like
but
a
I
Pro
mean,
Tour.
they've got a lot of people on staff right now. Anyways, I think like they've got a good team going, so they could do that. So
Potentially, at the very least, like put someone in coverage that at least has that background, that experience. So hey, reach out to JP. He's been on the show. We can cut a demo reel for him, and how.
I'm pretty sure he's done enough performing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, he can. I've
heard that man sing judge calls. Okay,
yeah,
like I understand.
He's a professionally trained actor. he could definitely handle being on the stream and one heck of a judge. So I'm just saying, if you want any recommendations, we got your back, JP. But we did have a stacked top 8. Not to Luis Savato obviously taking home the cake, very well known. But we also had Jerry Thompson, Reed Duke, Ken Yukihiro, and Javier Dominguez and Andre Mangucci here in the top 8 with 7 different archetypes. The only duplicate archetype we had to humans, which was sort of the deck of the Pro Tour. Most people played humans, had a pretty good conversion rate from day 1 to day 2. But everyone else, and you had Rizuk playing Abzan, just
regular old,
just like hey,
no siege rhinos. I don't think.
No. I don't think he had siege rhinos, but it was mainly a green black deck that was splashing for Lingering Souls.
Yeah.
So people were like, Tomergoyf's bad. Dark Confidant's bad, Liliana's bad, don't play those Reduke. And he's like, I don't care.
Yeah, the Reduke likes black-green decks like I like Delver decks. It's in his blood, He just...
I mean, I think it also is just a testament to Modern. I mean, he took a deck that he loves and knows and navigated a field that probably wasn't friendly for it. Same with Jerry Thompson. Like, he took a deck that was not very popular, well-known, and, like... just took it up there. There's a bunch of rogue decks here in the top 8, but I think those are two and Ken Yukihiro too, to his credit, players who took obscure or not very popular archetypes and took them to a top 8. Mm-hmm. So
I know like the deck probably isn't overall like that great, and you probably have to be like a Jerry Thompson level player to play that deck well, but that Martyr Pyromancer deck is so sweet.
Oh yeah, he was doing a lot of sweet stuff. And he was just beating up on humans was the most played deck, and he was just crushing humans. I think he was like 6-0.
Yeah, I mean humans. How's humans?
He went 901, I think, at the tournament or something like that.
Yeah, I think he was the only undefeated Modern player.
Yeah,
I thought.
Or the blue red deck.
I thought the what's his name?
Viren.
Viren. I thought he was undefeated in Modern.
Yeah, he had a couple draws, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
A couple unintentional draws.
Awkward.
But he was actually undefeated going into the top 8. So, he was one of the players we didn't mention in that stacked top 8. Though he has top 8 GPs, and then even the 8th player, was it John Emmanuel Duprat? He's also a GP winner, so I mean it's pretty experienced.
No, it was a good top 8 overall. I mean, like, so sorry, Andrew Mangucci. Like, I guess I'm glad you got in the top 8, but you had some questionable things happening in round 16, and I kept going back to your match while there was a judge call during the other judge call, and there on the other side of the feature match area, Sean Finkel, and he was the only other person who was live for top 8, and we didn't get to see that match, and then you, and I blame you, Andrew Mangucci, just you're the one who knocked him out of top 8. So, you know what? Not a fan.
Because Finkel won round 16, if I'm not mistaken.
He finished 9th.
Yeah, he finished actually. That's what I'm saying. Actually, like it was. Now, granted, Finkel was playing Tron, so I'm also fine that.
Did you really want to see him at the top?
But I like seeing the guy there.
Praise be to the 7, man.
Now you know if Finkel's playing Tron. Storm was a bad choice.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And the data shows that Storm had a real bad conversion rate.
I mean, looking at some of the again, going back to that Mardu Pyromancer deck, for example, like I won't play Storm against that deck. Like it's like I'll just play 12 discard spells against you. Oh, and also have like a turn 2 threat that you have a hard time beating. So
I think Storm is actually pretty good against that deck.
You think it's good against that deck? Yeah. I definitely think the Pyromancer deck's favored in that deck, in that matchup.
I mean, post sideboard you have like pieces of the puzzle and stuff like that, so their pinpoint discard doesn't really.
I don't know. I don't know. I think just any hand with a young Pyromancer, they just probably win that game. But
they just grape shot it.
Okay, you have to have. Like,
I'm just saying, that is like the style of deck that
maybe
deck
I'm crazy,
against.
but like because that deck feels like a lot like I don't know. It doesn't have the counter magic, but like at times it feels like it plays the same amount of interaction as like Death Shadow does, and has robust threats. And like obviously
the clock is so much slower than Death Shadow, though.
That's fair.
So. But yeah, Storm was bad. And you see a lot of people. Obviously, we talked about humans being the most played deck. Humans crushes Storm pretty well, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
When you have that many Thalias and Meddling Mages,
and freebooters, and
oh god, yeah.
Yeah,
everything.
It's kind of a nightmare.
Everything.
I got to talk about this blue-red Pyromancer pick. I'm sorry. So,
be my guest.
So Pascal Viren, so we talked about it a little bit. He went undefeated with his blue-red Pyromancer deck. And we've kind of seen, different styles of kind of blue-red mid-range / control decks. Like we've seen like the Through the Breach Emrakul versions. We've seen Kiki-Jiki, Pestermite, Deceiver Exarch, people playing that. We've seen versions that have had like main deck Madcap Experiments with Platinum Empyreans as the win condition. And he kind of decided that, you know what, I'm not going to play any of that nonsense. I'm just going to play good cards. And you know what, I completely agree with this because I've played all those other versions. Actually, I haven't played the Kiki-Jiki version, but I've played the Through the Breach and the Madcap version. And in playing that, it's like, for example, I played the Madcap Experiment version at FNM last week, and it actually did nothing at all. Like every time I cast it, the Empyrean just died immediately. Never cast it once, or never got to attack once. Never prevented any damage to me whatsoever. It was just kind of garbage, and it takes up like 6 or 7 slots in your deck. You know what I mean? Now, so instead you're just playing like main deck Pyromancers, which was just a good card. And Thing in the Ice, which was kind of surprising, but it was pretty good.
So I think, and a couple people were talking about this. So like, you also mentioned that he's not playing Moon anywhere in this list either.
Right? Yeah, that was the other big change. Yeah.
But like, I don't know how good this deck is overall, but in this metagame, like Thing in the Ice was really, really good. Like, man, is that card good against humans? Like they do, like outside of like Reflector Mage, they don't have a lot of ways to interact with it, and it's really easy to flip against them. And then you just kill them with a couple of attacks.
Yeah, it can close out a game really quickly. I guess like the downside is that you turn on like Fatal Push, which is kind of like mediocre. It turns into like an actual good card against you, but I think that's okay. But I do like this deck a lot, and probably going to play it in the IQ this weekend. It's definitely like my style. So
absolutely. I like seeing a return to Roast.
Yeah,
main
deck roasts. Yeah. So I thought this deck was pretty sweet, and makes a lot of sense based on like my experience playing like these style of decks. Like I think this makes sense as a innovation and kind of where it's going.
I think all the things you're talking about, like the Kiki, the Madcap, all that stuff, it's just trying to like throw free wins into a pretty good shell, right? Like because like so many decks in Modern get free wins in certain matchups, and like that's why like Death Shadow was so incredibly good, and then has now kind of normalized because people adapted and you didn't get those free wins as much. But like I know from experience playing this deck, but for sure playing these kind of decks that like free wins don't come often when you don't play those kind of tricks. When you're not playing Blood Moon, you're not playing those things. Like you are the fairest of the fair. But based on the way that this tournament turned out, and like obviously how well he played, so you could take what Thing of the Ice is kind of unfair against certain decks, but really like this is just like this is a bunch of commons and uncommons with Cryptic Command. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's kind of refreshing that like just the fairest thing you could be doing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's playing Ancestral Vision, and I can't cheat this into play in any way.
I'm just waiting 4 turns.
Yeah. This is just straight up, fair Ancestral Vision. So that should tell you all you need to know about this deck. But
I do have to give props to Pascal though. He is playing Snow Covered Land in his Thing in the Ice deck, which has been pointed out on Reddit, which is great flavor.
Yeah, LSV had some pretty funny comments on that. He's like, "Oh, well, why he's playing Snow Covered Lands, right?" And like Marshall Cyclist was like, "No, what? Why?" He's like, "So the picture." Like, he likes the pictures. I mean, in all seriousness, you could kind of maybe fool somebody into thinking that you're Storm because a lot of the Storm decks are playing, some number of snow-covered lands. So there is like some amount of value there. But they're probably going to find out really quickly once you cast, Pyromancer or whatever that you're not.
Wait a minute, Storm doesn't play Thing in the Ice.
Yeah,
but I cast so many spells. I did really enjoy. So he had to play against Jerry Thompson, and I really did enjoy the fact that the interaction of Thing in the Ice being only bouncing non-horrors actually came up in a Pro Tour tournament match.
Yeah, Bedlam Reveler is a devil horror.
Is a horror.
So it does not bounce, which was like bad for Jerry because he just wants to draw 3 more cards. Man! But I thought that was like when I was looking at that, I'm like, this is a clause and a card that actually matter. Like you would think maybe like Spellskite, right? Is like the only card
that's
modern.
come up for me before when playing Thing of the.
Well, like Spellskite doesn't really see much play anymore, so it just was really surprising that out of all the other horrors and all the other formats, Bedlam Reveler walked into my bar.
Yeah, I actually thought like that was probably one of the best matches of the whole Pro Tour. Was a semifinal match between Pascal.
He went down 0-2, right? Thompson went down 0-2, and then
and he came back and won 3 in a row. I did think Viren made some questionable plays in a couple of those games, but he played well overall. But I think like it was one of those things where like if you top decks like a card, instead of like a counter spell, like if a proactive card instead of a counter spell, then he like wins the game. So it was like really, really thin margin there.
Yeah, I think the nice thing when you look at like the matchup between because I think the matchup between those 2 decks is really interesting because you have like the discard versus like Ancestral Vision, which is good, but then like you saw like how well like Thompson was able to leverage like Faithless Lootings. So if he did have extra discard effects, you can just like I don't need these, get rid of them, and like obviously Lingering Souls is good in these matchups, anyways. So
they both had Pyromancers,
right? Like so it was a fun matchup to watch, to be quite honest, but. Definitely, just like such a weird match to see on a Sunday on a Pro Tour. So
I feel like Young Pyromancer is a card that's powerful in like Legacy more than it is in Modern.
It's good in Standard too.
It was great. I played with that card plenty in Standard, but it was fun to see it like kind of show up here a little bit and actually have its time to shine.
I've probably played Young Pyromancer actually more than I've played Delver. Like the card Young Pyromancer versus the card Delver, because I've played Pyromancer in non-Delver decks and in Delver decks.
There's a lot of decks I've played where I'm like, okay, I like this, and then someone like the Death Shadows one was recently where someone shows me a version where there's just like Pyromancers. I was like, oh yeah, I'm in.
Oh,
that's what this deck is. Where you're like, I was trying this out, but like, all right, because I think when we played the Open, you were like. But you went from boarding like 1 or 2 Pyromancers, like I've got all 4 now.
Yeah, like I had I at the last the Columbus SCG Open a couple weeks ago. I played the Breach Titan, or not Breach Titan, but the Breach Emrakul version of the blue red deck, and I've had 4 Young Pyromancers on the board. I'm like, well, this combo kind of stinks, but like every match that I boarded in these Pyromancers is just insane. So that's what I'm saying. Like it makes sense. Like having a main deck, it's like just go in on that plan and just try to win with creatures.
Also, that main deck of Braid's sweet.
Yeah, I think that was more of a concession to just like wanting more sideboard space. It's like not great against a lot of decks, but it's good against enough of the format. Yeah, one main, one side.
That's a sweet card, even like when you have like things like Lantern in the format, just like having those spells that can also do something else.
Well, it is kind of like the only way to destroy an artifact in the main deck, so... Yeah, I actually don't think Lantern is a great matchup for this.
No, it certainly isn't, but it's just nice having it, I guess.
But, I don't know. I guess we'll kind of see like what happens with Lantern. I think like, oftentimes you'll see a deck like win a Pro Tour, and then in the coming weeks you see a lot of people kind of like start to pick up the deck, like gains a lot of popularity. Lantern's like kind of a deck though where it's like, you really need to, like, be a certain type of player to kind of enjoy it, you know what I mean? Like, I would never play Lantern, but...
you need to be a certain type of player, and you also need to that's the kind of deck that when the format is aware of it, things like Sony Silence has become much more real, and you get because like here you saw like a deck like Affinity did terrible. Like Affinity's day 2 conversion rate was horrendous, but probably the worst it's ever been for a Pro Tour, and like so you really didn't have artifact decks doing that well, so you also didn't have people apparently that worried about it. So it also, unfortunately for most people, is not a cheap deck. Like if you want to just pick up Lantern, you do have to just pick up Ensnaring Bridges and Mox Opals, which Mox Opal you can play Affinity with. Ensnaring Bridge is, I guess, Red Prison.
Yeah,
so
play other prison decks.
So if you're the kind of person like we've worked on trying to build like modern decks that overlap each other so you can play more things. Unfortunately, Lantern does not overlap that much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't think this is going to be a deck where
you
might see some people try it. Like some people, like maybe some of the more like prominent SCG grinders, you may see it pick up a little bit. in the coming tournaments on the Star City circuit. I expect to see a little bit more there, but at the same time, like I expect people I expect there to be a little bit of an uptick in like Ancient Grudges, and maybe people play an extra Stony Silence in their board where they wouldn't have before.
Right.
So it's just more on the radar than it was before.
And I also think like it's something to be said in Salvato's like definitely in his benefit, like that's a hard deck to pilot in my opinion. Like you have so many decisions you can make in any individual turn that I think it's really, really tough. I know a lot of people get frustrated by it and just be like, oh well, just make sure they mill them to no hit a spell. It's like, but you have some real decisions in milling. You have to look at a lot. Like I think that it's a tough deck to play and a tough deck to sequence and it isn't just something you can just pick up and be like, I know I couldn't just pick it up and I know what the deck does. I know how it operates, but I wouldn't feel comfortable playing it.
And I think with the version that he played, with the War of Inventions, this is kind of like the default version at this point. I think the deck, like, it can lock you up really quickly.
Surprisingly quickly sometimes.
So, like, you may think of it as like, oh yeah, it's just like really slow deck that draws the game out, but it's like the game could essentially be over on like turn 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, what I will say this, like we talked about the round 16 thing, but in all honesty, like I agree with what you said, Dave. Like, I'm an advocate of conceding in those games where it's just like it doesn't do either of you any benefit. Like, yeah, they could mess up and like mill themselves out, but like, is it worth your time? Like at a Pro Tour, sure it is, but I don't know. I'm just ready to go to the next game and see what I can do. So
yeah,
can we talk about the Hollow One deck?
Black Red Hollow One. This is a sort of a rogue list that has been showing up here and there. This is the discard, the Burning Inquire, Goblin Lore.
Goblin Lore double-digit price card. Just want you to understand.
Yeah,
sold out on SCG for $12.
I definitely have a couple of those too. I'm gonna have to.
I have 2. I will not have them for much longer.
I think I also have 2. Maybe we can get this deck together.
No, I'm gonna sell.
No.
I'm gonna sell Goblin Lores while they're $12.
But Mike, Flamewick Phoenix.
Oh no! So I like a lot of the cards in this deck. I've said before, I will not play this deck.
So
I cannot play a Burning Inquiry deck. I can't do it. It hurts my brain.
Have you heard about this thing called variance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I like to be on the right side of it. And even when I like to be, I'm not that often.
This deck's like, I don't variance. What's that? I don't care. Either way, something good is going to happen, I guess.
Yeah. So he kind of punked out Reed Duke in the top 8 with this deck. He definitely did a turn 1 Burning Inquiry into double Hollow 1.
Yep.
Then they're calling it Hollow 2, which is kind of funny.
H2.
Yeah. Which is like, not many decks can even beat that. Like, what are you gonna?
Nope.
Like, outside of like a turn 3 Storm Kill, or like,
all right, turn 1 Red Source, turn 2 Red Source, Shattering Spree.
Yeah,
there we go. I did it. I constructed the scenario.
Congratulations.
No, this deck is obviously incredibly powerful, and I will say, while I like to be on the right side of variance, I think he showed that. Sometimes yes, you're gonna get got by those cards, and sometimes you're gonna play 2 or 3 hollow ones, and it's gonna be crazy. But more often than not, the deck operated pretty much as consistently as I think a deck like Dredge operates.
Yeah,
like if you just saw how it plays, but it isn't just immediately shut down by Graveyard Hate like Dredge automatically is. So I think it's certainly interesting. Again, like it's not a deck that I am interested in specifically, but like it is definitely a cool way to play, and I think it's pretty cool to see cards like Flamewick Adept and Hollow One, who I think were Hollow One when we saw people were excited about. I tried playing it, and Flamewick Adept, one of those cards where people were like, I guess I don't know, and like taking these standard cards that felt maybe a little innocuous and seeing what they can do in older formats is kind of fun.
Yeah, and Ken's deck here is very streamlined. He's got basically all 4s except for like 2 Collective Brutality, and he's playing like
by the way, $25 card now, just so you know. Jerry had 4 in his 75.
Yeah.
So,
Dave, I'd like to note verbally here on the podcast that you are borrowing one of mine.
I still have it set aside,
just
so don't worry.
So Jordan is borrowing 2 of mine, and I mentioned to him last week. So just make sure you didn't lose them, bud, because they got pricier.
You're gonna pull out the sound clip here. Like, oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, I think like there was a point in time where this deck was fairly cheap. It's starting to get not so cheap, especially if you're playing the 4 Goblin Lore version. But yeah, I mean this is actually a deck that a lot of the Team Musashi played as well.
It's had a 100% conversion rate too.
Yeah, so this is like one of the best performing decks. And again, this like Lantern, there weren't a whole ton of people playing it. for reasons that I know Mike and I have outlined before, where it's just, do you like flipping coins? I guess rolling dice, is more.
Yeah, I guess.
For the random discards, I don't know.
I mean, I think it does a lot of cool things. I love the big game hunters out of the sideboard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Just
That just seems really sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, again, it's just a deck that's just like Lantern. It's a deck that doesn't appeal to me, but I'm not upset that it exists, and I think it just shows off what Modern's capable of.
You might be upset that it exists if you somebody plays turn 1 2 hollow.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. That's frustrating, but that's just something that decks can do. So,
but I think it's just as likely as they discard the hollow ones and then
and
they don't do anything for the whole game.
Right.
No, but yeah, I think this is we kind of talked about this a little bit when was it Steve Rubin was playing this in one of the opens, and we kind of said it does kind of lend credence to the the credibility of the deck, and now seeing it in the top 8 of the Pro Tour and seeing it just do all these crazy things, I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to this kind of deck.
And it's also it's a 2-color deck. There are some crossover cards. It's not the worst deck to get into, and it's not oppressive or anything like that. And it's fun. I would just say looking at this deck, it's risky and people might like that.
Yeah, unlike Lantern, which like I said is does not have a lot of crossover, is hard to play, and is very different from every other deck out there. This is a deck that's not super tough to play, has a decent amount of cards that are relatively cheap, and
cards that cross over, honestly. The mana base of this deck crosses over to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Plus you have Street Wraiths, Collective Brutalities, you have Bloodghast if you want to do, depending on what deck you want to do. Yeah, I agree.
And in the end, it's just attacking with big creatures.
Right.
So.
Right. I think I like this version better than the Vengevine version for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, I also want to, I guess last deck, because I don't really want to talk about the humans decks, I will say that Phantasmal Image seems to have become pretty standard for a lot of these lists.
Yeah. That and still a little bit split on Keswick Malcontents, whether that's the card. I know that the weird one of that Andrea Mangucci had was a Kythian hero about Akros.
Yeah, I saw it flipped. I was just like, what?
Which I don't in honesty, I guess you now have a Planeswalker that's a semi hard to deal with permanent, but I would rather have Keswick Malcontents. I'd rather have the card that gives me reach.
Yeah, Kythian just feels like a bad 1-drop compared to the other things you're doing in your deck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's weird.
So Mangucci had an article out today where he kind of talked, it was just kind of an in general tournament report, and he said that his next article he's going to kind of go in depth about some of the choices. So I guess I don't really know why the Kythian was in there. Maybe they just wanted another 1-drop. That's my guess. But yeah, I don't know. But there was a team that was playing, I think it was Willie Adel's team was playing humans, but they were playing Collected Company.
Right.
So their mana base was a little different. They didn't play.
Well, if you're playing Collected Company, it's definitely different.
Yeah,
you can't play the Ziggurats because the Ziggurats can't cast Collected Company. So they were playing City of Brass or
Mana Confluence.
Mana Confluence. Yeah, so it was a little slightly different there, but those ones didn't crack the top 8. I don't know how they did overall. I'm
not sure.
I didn't parse out all the humans list to see which ones were playing company and which ones weren't. But it was a thing that was out there, and they obviously felt that it was worth it to play Collected Company, whereas I would say most people did not. But
we should talk a little bit about Traverse Shadow, because Traverse Shadow is the deck that had the highest number with the highest conversion rate. Out of people who played it, it was 88% of those decks stayed too. Now, Grixis also had a good showing. Death Shadow had a good showing overall, but I think the version here that was top 8 here was
John Emmanuel Depraz.
Thank you. I know we already said it, and I couldn't remember if it was Jean, and I felt bad. So, if you look at what this deck has normally been, there's a couple of small changes. We do see a Grimflayer in the main deck, which is interesting. We do see the return of things like Temur Battle Rage, and Traverse being a bit of a toolkit. I think the sideboard is where it got really spicy.
the one of Hostage Taker.
Well, you had Godless Shrine for Lingering Souls, which is a sweet package. But yeah, the Hostage Taker.
That's hot.
What a sweet Traverse target. And instead, it also it allowed them to do things that. Talking about a deck like Lantern, for example, which normally, depending on the build, Lantern will protect its ensnaring bridges with welding jars, right?
Yeah.
So if you can just traverse for your hostage taker to take the ensnaring bridge, like to get your one attack in, like, oh, now it doesn't matter if you had welding jar. Like, it's just over here now. So
It's mine now.
And they can't like abrupt decay, So it is. I don't know. It's a pretty spicy one. It was sweet to see, but I think like this, this and Grixis have both become pretty standard. But it's been interesting to see this deck sort of reassert itself after it had that initial sort of splash, and this is what people were doing. And then they moved away, and now they've come back to this a little bit. I still think that Goyf is probably not where I want to be consistently in Standard, but...
And Modern.
I don't know why I said Standard. I would love to be in Goyf in Standard. I take that back.
Nah. Would be a bad Standard card.
So I've been saying for a while now that I think the Traverse version is better than Grixis. I think... It kind of started out. The Traverse version was kind of the first one that kind of broke out after the banning of Cataxian Probe and all that, and then people quickly moved to Grixis, and that became like the default Death Shadow deck. And I think that at some point in the last few months, it's definitely swung back, and I think Traverse is just it's more proactive in my opinion. Like it's a lot of times the Grixis is trying to play like a control deck, but you don't quite have all the tools to like fully control the game. You can like control it to a point, but at some point they just they draw out of it, and then you could be in trouble if you don't have the correct answer at that time. Where this one can just be like, okay, I'm just going to like play a Tarmogoyf on turn 2, and it can get really big in this deck really quickly. So I like that it's more proactive in that you have the Lingering Souls in the board and can have a couple different angles of attack that way.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, great though. I should say this is not the same as technically what the old Traverse decks were, because like this is literally 5 color. So like you do have. I mean, the original versions weren't running Stubborn Denial in the main. They weren't playing Lingering
that's
Souls.
true. Yeah. Like
Lingering, like, Stubborn Denial makes this a little bit more attractive, I think. But I disagree. I still think Grixis is actually the better version. So, here's the thing. I don't think they're that far apart, no matter how you look at it. Like,
yeah. We'll just say this: if I played a Shadow deck again, I would play something like this versus. I wouldn't.
No, I think I really think that Snapcaster is still the better card in these. Yeah, one is not how that works, but but I mean I think it's pretty again to see this that like again we had people we had LSV calling for a Death Shadow ban earlier or in the middle of last year, and I think it's been there's been a lot of talk about the Tay. A ton of people were talking about how we should ban Lantern now because it won the Pro Tour. It's like, well, no, like I don't like Lantern very much, but no, like here's the thing, I could see them banning a card
you gotta save it. That's our question.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I'm sorry. I take it back. Then I didn't look ahead. I got excited.
I think it was a little disheartening because. He ended up losing to Luis Salvato in the top 8. And I think if there was any deck in the top 8 equipped to beat Lantern, it would be this. I mean, he's got main deck Abrupt Decays. Stubborn Denials is like a decent card against them. The discard obviously is good. You got Ancient Grudges in the board. You got Maelstrom Pulse, Hostage Taker. Like you have a lot of tools actually to fight against Lantern, where most decks like might have maybe 3 pieces of interaction or something like that. Still wasn't able to win. So sometimes Lantern can just do that.
Yeah, I think like it's just tough. The one thing you say being proactive, the one thing that this deck doesn't always do as well. You say like you can present a Tarmogoyf, but like unless you have the Battle Rage, like the Lantern player can just be slow still. They can just kind of play their game and not care. So your discard spells have to be critical. But I agree. I mean, it does have a lot of things like Liliana, even as is that ultimate is legitimate against Lantern. It sometimes it does shake out that way. But when you look at it like as a best of 5, like I think it's a little telling. You know what I mean? That like you'd hope it was good, but
it did go to 5 games, so
it's fair.
It was close.
It's fair. The hostage taker doing work.
I just imagining like the pirate stealing a bridge and like the actual bridge. It's a hilarious image.
It's my bridge now.
How are we supposed to attack him? Well, because you can cross now, but you took the bridge.
If that actually happened, I hope you didn't try casting the bridge. That'd be awkward.
Probably,
like, oh, wait,
probably not.
No, we don't want the bridge.
But yeah, I think that that this Traverse list, it's still like. I think the 2 flavors of Shadow are still both pretty fine. If one has a slight edge over another, like
if you look at the 7 and 8 wins, it's all Grixis when it comes to Death Shadow.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how many wins he had, if he had 8 or 9 in Standard, but because it just says 8th place.
Modern.
It's the second time I've done it. Sorry.
Just got Standard on the brain.
Standard on the brain, yeah.
But yeah, I think like if you go through and look at the, there's obviously a ton of different things you can look at.
Mm-hmm.
There's a white black zombies deck that has
Yeah,
that, had
that
7
was one of the
wins,
wild ones.
which is pretty sweet. It had playing Dread Wanderers and Grave Crawlers, which is pretty sweet, and Smuggler's Copters, 4 of them. Grave Crawler, I've seen the art for that card. You can't play.
You ain't got no legs.
You ain't got no legs, man.
Major pain.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
No, that's Forrest Gump. Don't.
But he
You got
also
no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
He also ain't got
didn't
no
have
legs. Skateboard guy from the movie Kids. Some
Yeah.
people will know what that is.
Yeah, he has no legs.
He also has no legs. I have no legs. I have no legs. It's in the movie. It's a messed up movie.
It sounds like it.
Don't see that movie, Mike. It'll change you as an individual. Dave, have you seen that movie?
I think I've seen parts of it, not the whole.
Again, it'll change you as an individual.
Yeah.
I saw the movie when I was way too, not way too young, but still too young.
When you were a kid?
No, when I was a kid. I was definitely like in high school, but I was like,
Okay.
nah, I shouldn't watch this movie. It's messed up. Our audience knows. Kids messed up movie.
I got a shout out to Alex Magleton, a noted Affinity master. Did not play Affinity in this turn.
Magleton.
Yeah.
Magneton?
I said Magleton.
I said Magleton.
Magnemite?
What? Sorry if I mispronounced.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, that hard J in there.
Anyway, he was playing blue-white control, which you might not think is that exciting, but he's got the sweet one Dragonlord Ojitai in the main, and you know he's got the Minamo School at Water there. Just
Yeah, of course.
untap it. That's hot. I have not seen that come up in a long time in blue-white control. Other than that, it's a pretty standard list. But he had 9 wins, 9-1 in Modern, so there were a fair number of pros that brought just straight blue-white to the tournament.
Right, Blue White. Jessica had an okay showing, but didn't really have anyone. Like, I think there are a couple 7 wins, but kind of surprised with how. I don't know. I'd say surprised, maybe not, but like Jessica had really been the direction the format had gone. So to kind of see it, not do that great.
I mean, both the control, both Blue White and Just Guy did not do great. So.
I mean, it's 9 wins is nothing to sneeze at, but
overall,
do you know what's really funny?
Overall.
Did you see who wasn't playing control? Do you see that Shaheen Sarani had 7
Yeah.
wins playing
Crackland.
Ironworks combo?
Yeah, he's played that on SCG Tour before.
Yeah, but like he could have played control cards and he didn't.
I know.
I think
well,
he
he
did this to try and protest Jace's ban.
Yeah, he kind of like proclaimed that just control is just not viable and modern, and I think it's correct to a point, but it's still kind of odd that it is. I think it's a fine choice. Again, I'm probably not going to go back to playing blue-white control again, just because I can't. I can't take
that can win a game.
Yeah, I can't really take like every round going to time or close to it. And it's actually. I think there was a Reddit thread talking about like the number of draws in the tournament and like how many were attributed to Lantern and how many were attributed to like blue-white control.
Lantern had like something. I think it like 3%, maybe.
Yeah,
This might have been per individual players or overall, but Blue Eye Control had like something like 30%.
right. Oh, and I totally buy that because like even if you play it like a pretty quick pace, like the games with blue-white control are never fully in hand until you've actually won. Whereas Lantern a lot of times will have it actually locked up, after a certain point.
Right.
Where the opponent has no chance of actually winning the game. Whereas blue-white, it's like, well, like, if they top deck something like, something they might be able to actually win. So I don't know. It's not for me. If they print something that can like enable the deck to win like very quickly, then maybe I'll go back to it. But
Yeah, if Blue White could just like get a win condition that they can't interact with and wins the game quickly, then sign me up too.
no, I'm saying like something that like I don't know, something like that mills them out really quickly or something. I don't know.
Play Emojis.
Emojis
That's a 5-drop. It's hard to interact with.
in Q.
No, pretty sure that anything that costs more than 3 mana that's a Planeswalker in Modern is actively fairly difficult to interact with.
It's true.
It's kind of been shown over and over again. But hey, what do I know? Just play One Cavern of Souls, play an Aetherling. That's what I did. Man. Overall, though, I think like this was a really good showing for. Obviously, we talked about how many viewers there were, but I think like the format was diverse. The games were enjoyable to watch. Like I know some people were still frustrated that the Modern's the Pro Tour, but I think this Pro Tour was a huge success.
Yeah, I think the amount of viewers shows that, and the amount of interest in it shows that. I mean, like, I don't think people were watching because of Rivals Vixel Unlimited. They were watching because it's Modern, and Modern is exciting and diverse, and you have fan favorites. And I think that is very important. I think that people wanting to tune in to potentially watch like either the deck they not only I guess the player that they want to watch play, but also potentially the deck they want to see like win. Yeah. I think that's something that is tangible. That is, I think, important.
Yeah, like to that end, I'll say Yu Watanabe was playing Black Green Tron, and I'm not a fan of Tron, but I love watching Yu Watanabe play. So it's like, all right, this is okay. I can do this.
I also think it helped them because you talk about storylines. Like again, like watching like Reed Duke and Jerry Thompson get those third Pro Tour top eights. Like these are people who are inching towards a couple of years. You're gonna be looking at Hall of Fame noms, and like there it is. And Kenny Yukihiro for that matter too. Like showing his range, just like playing whatever he wants to play with strange cards. And
I think in his words, he said something like, "In Modern, you want to try to not play Magic or something like that." It's like, well, if you're playing Burning Inquiry, it's pretty close to not playing Magic, I guess.
So one thing I do want to say, and like obviously this person will not hear this, but I do want to give a shout out to Brian David Marshall, who I don't know if you guys knew this or not. His father passed away right before the PT started, and he powered through and like did it, and I think that was that's obviously a lot of tragedy this weekend. But I think that like. That is impressive to go and do that and to show that resolve and to deal with such a difficult. Some people I know that they need to do that. Like that's that's the grieving process is just to throw themselves into their work. But I think like if you saw him on camera and doing that, like he was that enthusiastic guy doing all the interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I didn't even know that until after.
Yeah, so just a lot of credit to a very 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 professional in a situation that may not have would have been totally understandable if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I know that there was a point where BDM was interviewing Jerry Thompson. I want to say it was in the top 8 or maybe it was before the top 8. And, Jerry was pretty close to Corey McDuffie. So, they were kind of both going through, different, their own kind of tragedies there. So, but I guess credit to them for...
Yeah, it was a good showing of just like some the unity and the power of like what it was cool to watch all the games and stuff, but also like all the different articles and all the different outpourings for like the community. Like that's the best of what it's the worst of situations and the best of what the community can be. So I thought it was interesting. It was cool to see.
For sure. All right, before we jump into the question of the week, do you want to give a quick shout out to our other sponsor, BCW Supplies? You can check out all of their lovely card sleeves, deck boxes, what have you, over at their website, bcwsupplies.com, or check them out on Facebook by doing a quick search for BCW Supplies. You also follow the team BCW that they do help bring around to a bunch of different places before the opens, for the Specialty Game opens. So if you want to follow all the members of the team BCW group, find them on Twitter. I think their handle is just Team BCW, if I'm not incorrect. But you can just search for them and they'll show up. So, question of the week. We are obviously quickly approaching the Banner Restricted announcement that happens post Pro Tour. And it'll be on Monday, February 12th, 2018, obviously. What changes, if anything, do you expect to see? Obviously, Lantern Control, just one. And that is a deck that many people don't necessarily enjoy for various reasons. So that could be a deck that people will want to see a card banned in for some reason. But do you guys expect anything to change with the next BNR announcement?
I don't expect anything to get banned. I do think like the people that are calling for lantern bans, it's like it's kind of BS. You know what I mean? It's like
what does that acronym stand for? I don't know what that means.
I don't know. You can figure it out.
Family friendly.
Friendly.
Family friendly. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, even though it's not the kind of deck that I would play. Like I know that there are a fair number of people out there that do love that deck. Like that's like their deck that they play all the time. And again, there still aren't that many people playing it. Like it's not.
That's why I call those people the devil.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't have that many high profile wins. You know, it won a GP, and that kind of like put it on the map. And ever since, it's been like a deck, but it hasn't been like the thing to do. Now, I guess we'll see. We'll wait and see where Modern goes from here. But it didn't dominate the tournament or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's fine. I don't think anything needs to be banned right now. I think, if anything, this Pro Tour showed that the format is pretty healthy. You can play a ton of different decks and have success. Unlike previous Modern Pro Tours, there wasn't really any one deck that just dominated and kind of broke Modern. So yeah, I don't think anything needs to be banned. I do think we will have an unban, and I'm going to say I think it's time for Bloodbraid Elf to come off the ban list. That's my prediction. I don't think that's that like bold of a statement or anything like that, but that's what I expect.
Well, I guess piggybacking off of that and going back to what I started saying during the earlier stuff, I still do think there and don't get this like twisted here. I'm not calling for anything to be banned from Lantern. I agree. It's people. The people who like call for that ban, but then will turn around and say like, "Oh, well, Standard's all about creature combat." And it's like, yeah, in a Modern, it's a prison deck. Like they're not called prison because it's fun, like, but they yeah. Right, like, but they check the format in different ways. You know what I mean? Just like if you play Blood Moons in your deck, but you're like, oh, I don't like Lantern. It's like, well, you're not playing Blood Moons so that like your opponent gets to play the game that you do. So get off your high horse. You know what I mean? I don't like playing against it, and I feel very satisfied whenever I see the deck lose. Kind of like the Patriots. I told you there would be another joke later in this, but I will still say that the rules, like the rules of WotC has set down for the format, has I think still meant that cards like Mox Opal are always going to be on a bubble list that could easily just get banned. And I don't know if a high profile like they may have already wanted to do that even if that didn't happen, but like Mox Opal lets certain decks just totally break the rules of the format. And I say the rules, but like what WotC has said is the idea of the format. Same with people who were calling for like Simian Spirit Guide before. You know what I mean? Like it's not seeing a ton of play right now, but like during Eldrazi Winter, like decks that play those cards, like Affinity is the most fair thing you're doing with a Mox Opal. You know what I mean? Which is fine, but the decks that play those cards and try to break them are never doing something that WotC wants to see happen in Modern. So I would not be absolutely shocked if I saw Mox Opal get banned. I hope right now I hope it doesn't, because I think that sets a really bad precedent that like your deck did well at the Pro Tour. So where are you going now? Like not Disneyland, the ban list.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to like be afraid that like basically you shouldn't want your deck to lose at the Pro Tour.
Right.
Like you said, like people want to tune in and watch like the decks that they play.
Yeah, I think like Storm's safe. You sucked enough that you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, at some point, I don't just like a card like Street Wraith, for example. You know what I mean? Like I could see that being a card where Wizards banned Jitaxian Probe on similar basis, because like what does that card actually do for any of its decks? Like it just lets you play 56 cards. Like that's not, they don't design Magic like that anymore. And really, like I also like, it does cool things for Death Shadow, it does cool things for like Living End, but at the same time, like I get why like that card is something that'd be like, okay, like if this is gone, I get it. You know what I mean? So I think when you look at cards like that, you have to at least consider it. But I think Modern's super healthy, and I agree. I think personally it'll be an unban, and I agree with you. It's probably Bloodbraid Elf. I really, at this point, I keep going back and forth in this, but like I will not be like super shocked if there's another high profile card, be it Stoneforge Mystic or Jace.
Yeah.
I'm very low on it being Jace, but I still think I think this for a while. I think Stoneforge Mystic is doable. They could ban Batterskull if they wanted to, but like Jit's banned, so it's the major issue in the format anyways. And I think Stoneblade X would be fun in Modern.
Yeah, I do think like they could unban Stoneforge, and it's probably fine. But I think the format is in a good place right now, and I don't know if they want to shake it up that much. Like I think Bloodbraid like makes it so that maybe you do consider playing Jund, because Jund was basically non-existent in this. Like even like Abzan was like very.
Can we play Death Shadow with Bloodbraid Elf?
You can play whatever you want. I do think like it's at least a little bit more interesting now, because when they banned Bloodbraid, I don't believe Collected Company was a card. So now it's like, okay, well you're probably not gonna play both of those cards in the same deck.
No, they don't do so well together.
So. I mean, it's like, do you want to play Bloodbraid in your deck? Do you want to play, more creatures, maybe playing Collected Company? Like, there's actual decisions to be made there.
Yeah, and I think we haven't seen Bloodbraid Elf since we saw Deathrite Shaman. Yeah. And they're not bringing that card back. So I think, like, Bloodbraid Elf has a chance of being a card that also sees almost no play when it gets unbanned. And I don't think that's a bold thing to say. I think it's a card that could see almost no play.
We've seen that with a lot of cards. Like, they unbanned Bitter Blossom, and that didn't really do a whole lot.
How about, remember Thopter Sword, and people were like really upset about it.
Yeah,
losing their minds. Zero play.
So, but that's why I think that like something like Stoneforge Mystic, I don't think that is that. Jace would be a big kick, I think. But
yeah, Jace is the best card in Magic.
Yeah, except for like look at what just won this format. Like, is Jace beating the Humans deck? Like, is a Jace deck beating the Humans deck consistently? Like, does it make that deck better enough to win in those matchups? I don't know, and maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. But
yeah, I mean, you're right. That probably is a great matchup for a Jace deck, but Jace also just makes like a Jace deck is also better against a lot of other decks that exist in the
gives
format.
The blue-white deck a win condition that Dave's talking about.
Sure.
I would totally play blue-white if I could play Jace Mind Skull.
The card's just oppressive.
It probably is, and that's fair. But I do, again, I think that Stoneforge isn't. I think that Stoneforge isn't.
I think if you ban Batter Skull, I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's very possible what they do. And here's the thing: I bet if you had a Stoneforge deck like that, then it'd be. I almost guarantee it would look more like what the Monument decks look like in Standard.
Probably.
Or in Standard. Well, the modern version too. But like then they would like the old because then you can play Squadron Hawk with it too, and you do what you want. But you're probably just getting Sylvic Life Staffs again. Like, you're not, you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, like, even like Batterskull sees almost no play now, even with decks that can cast it really easily, because artifact removal really is in a healthy place, and also the removal spells that deal with the token are there. Like, maybe Batterskull is oppressive to burn decks, but I think that's a maybe anyways. So
I don't think anything will be banned in Modern or Standard or anything like that. Although playing some Standard over the weekend, I really do not like the Scarab God. I'm not saying the card needs banned, but
I never actually cast that card. I had never played it in Standard, and oh boy, did I win some games I had no business winning because of only that card.
So here's your typical play pattern with Scarab God. Your opponent resolves Scarab God. Can you deal with it in any way or form? No, you've lost the game.
Yep.
Especially if you're playing like a creature deck that just has like good creatures to get.
And they already like cast removal spells.
Yeah. So like if they have anything that you could like, I wish that sometimes I could just start the game with like a permanent rest in peace in my favor. So like I at least didn't have a graveyard, so I didn't have to die to my own creatures. It's embarrassing, and I don't like it.
Hey, he's a god.
I understand. I get it.
We're talking about Modern here.
That I don't like that card. I don't think it needs banned. But if it did get banned, I wouldn't be sad about it at all. Moving on to Modern, I don't think anything deserves to be banned in Modern. Even though, again, there's another card that exists that in Modern that I don't really like. It's called Snaring Bridge. Like, I don't like that card.
Yeah, like Bridge is another card that like does something that Modern Magic, and I say Modern as like design principles, just doesn't. Like, you would never ever even consider doing. But like are you banning that card, or are you banning Blood Moon? Like, then you're just shifting what Modern is, I think.
No, I understand. I just personally don't like the card.
No, that's fair.
I just think it's really unfun. Like, it just there's so many decks in Modern that just like that happens, and you're like, oh, cool. All right. Well, I'm done here, I guess.
I miss the good old days when it was just burn decks playing that card.
Yeah. Some burn decks still do play that card.
It's true.
Play that in like Grafted Skullcap.
Oh god.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, unbanning Bloodbraid Elf definitely. I think Bloodbraid Elf died for Deathrite Shaman sins
for sure,
and I feel like that card could bring new life to a Jund-esque archetype, or even like a green red like beatdown deck. Maybe, who knows?
I got something in the tank here.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Maybe like a fun teamer deck,
little teamer
without
action.
Yeah, that's what I thought. As far as something like a Stoneforge Mystic, like I understand your argument, Mike. Like, oh well, there's we have so much artifact removal, artifact hate. Like Jerry Thompson played against Lantern Control with up to 4 Kolaghan's commands, and they didn't.
Yeah, but you can also just kill the. There's a difference. You can also just kill the Stoneforge Mystic before the Battle Scroll comes down.
Sure,
you just have to play a 5-drop, a 5-mana 4/4. So
I understand that you make the argument that there's so much artifact removal that exists in the format, but not everyone's necessarily like main decking it.
no, they just kill the creature. They play creature removal too.
Sure.
So I think then they got the tutor for Batter Skull, which is fine. But I think I don't think it's that. I really don't think it would be that oppressive. But I know that you like to play like Burn sometimes, so maybe that's why you're.
I just don't. I think it is an avenue that shouldn't be like explored. Like I think like it's something that within the modern format there's not enough safety valves to keep that from like if that is a bad thing, like that turns out to be a bad thing that happens within the format, you're just gonna have to like reel back your decision.
It's ultimately like super fair though.
I'm not saying it's unfair.
What besides Batter Skull, what else are you actively getting? Like swords do nothing in
I
modern.
understand.
They are pretty much even with like Stoneforge Mystic, they would be close, I think, to unplayable.
I think that the main issue is
like you're getting Darksteel Axe, and then
it's not the other equipment.
Bone
We know
splitter.
we know that GC is never going to come off the
no, that stays there
ban list.
forever.
Correct.
It's dead to us.
I just think that you run the risk of Batter Skull being the problem. I think that's the only one that would be the problem.
Safety valves, and like if that's the problem, then you just like I don't think it's that hard to fix in the first place. But again, this could be a moot point and it won't be there. But I do feel like that is the most likely other card I think you would see is Stoneforge Mystic.
And other than that, I guess Stoneforge Mystic, like if you unban that, you have to think about all the other equipment you print.
Yeah, except they haven't printed
but they don't print good equipment anymore. Yeah.
Literally since Sword of Feast and Famine.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So, but pause. We're seeing if Rush is going to be a good boy and not bark. And all right, good. Rush was a good boy. Yeah, I would see like the safest thing to remove though is definitely Bloodbraid Elf. Which is weird to be like, oh yeah, this Cascade card that
costs 4 mana.
It does cost 4
mana 3/2.
So I think that a few people have been asking for that for like ever. So I feel like that's just like the one you throw out every time. We'll go to modern list, Bloodbraid Elf, and then nothing changes. Like I'm perfectly okay with that too. So we'll see what happens. But I already have my foil promo signed Bloodbraid Elves, so I'm already set if that happens.
No, what if...
No deck to play them in, but I have them.
What if it were Bloodbraid Human instead of Bloodbraid Elf? Would it be too good?
4 mana, I still don't know. I even forgot. Here's funny. I, up until a while ago, didn't even know it was an elf. And it's called Bloodbraid Elf.
in the name.
But I never put it together. I had it with an Imperious Perfect, and it was like, oh, this is pumped. I was like, what?
So... no.
Well, at least you at least have to think about it. Like if that were a human, it might be too good.
It's just a relevant creature type.
Yeah, but humans is already tier 1.
Yeah,
and it's like giving it something else.
I don't know.
No, I mean, I guess it's just always going to get new cards.
You also, yeah, they're always going to print humans. I think the thing is that it's pretty like mediocre unless you're casting it, right? So
yeah.
Like you're not vialing it in to do any value. Like it's just like you're just trying to get your 7 mana hopefully worth of value. But you're like it. I think it's just too. I think like the deck would play it if it was a human, but meh. Maybe it's like a fun of.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I guess we'll know next week.
Yeah, we will.
Right.
We'll talk about it. So wrap up. We have some things happening over the weekend here. We have the Star City Games IQ again at Comic Town on Sunday, and then a GP Toronto, which is going to be modern. So that's going to be fun and exciting.
I also want to mention some friends of the show. We talked about this last year.
The Riley Oberhart.
That's the one.
Tournament.
The second annual Riley Oberhart Memorial 1K tournament is on February 25th, and this is at the Needhammer Event Center in Indianapolis, Indiana. You can look up the Riley Oberhart Memorial Tournament on Facebook, and you'll get their event page.
Yep.
Just like last year, tons of cool prizes, and you can donate, and you can use T-shirts and all that kind of stuff.
And you can pre-register.
That is a big deal. They're really asking people to
pre-register.
So if you're interested in going to that, please do. Obviously for a good cause.
for sure. Also, before we wrap up, something we forgot to mention in the community, I just remembered like midway through the show, F&M promos are coming back.
Oh, right.
That's a pretty good deal. Starting in Dominaria.
Hey, they just announced it yesterday.
Yeah. So that's going to be something that is important. And they said that they obviously went through a lot of eternal deliberation and how to make them better. So I think Stod said today that with they want to send them out, like set them later, and with the play design team being a thing, hopefully there'll be more hits than they are misses. So that's pretty exciting. And Dominaria is a really good time to bring them back.
I really enjoyed that. One of the responses to that tweet was Aaron Forth saying, "Wait, we can do better than what was it? What was the Sphinx? What?
I forget what it is.
Fortune's Favor or whatever.
Yeah, Fortune's
Favor.
Favor.
We can do better than Fortune's Favor."
Yeah, it was a pretty good one, but that's fairly exciting news. I know a lot of people were really thrilled about the treasure, so the tokens, the double-sided tokens. So I'm glad to see.
I got my blessing / Phoenix. That's all I cared about. I do need some saplings though. I need those for battle blocks.
Oh yeah, and since this was so short-lived, those tokens might actually end up being worth something down the road. So
they're all from a bad set. So.
Anyway. But that's going to be everything for us this week. If you want to reach out to us, please feel free to reach out via Twitter. It's your Endstep. When you add us, it's at your Endstep. And then you also have our email address at yourendstep@gmail.com, or our website, which is just at yourendstep.com. That's the first place you can go to listen to our show every week. And I swear this week I'm not going to post the old show and pose it as the new show. I swear. We also have our Patreon you can go visit. It's just patreon.com/@yourendstep. It's where you can go to contribute to the show if you feel like giving us a monthly amount, and we try to give you exclusive giveaways and access to behind the scenes of show stuff and everything like that. So trying to get better at it for our lovely patrons to benefit them. But we can't thank them enough for wanting to contribute what they make monthly or weekly or bi-weekly to give us a little bit of that, and we do appreciate it. And of course the same can be said for our sponsors, BCW Supplies and Comic Town. If you are downloading us via iTunes, feel free to leave us a review or a rating. It really does help visibility. And if you got us via MTGcast, take a look at some of the other shows that are on there. That's going to be everything for us this week. We thank you so much for your time, and you have a great one. Bye.